Hi and welcome back to the second video in the series on anxiety and stress reduction for Heal, Grow, Thrive with me, Deborah. So good to have you back, and we'll be moving on today to talk about reframing your thoughts. So let's first talk about what I actually mean by that and what the impact of thought actually has. So when I say reframe your thoughts, what I mean by that is whatever thought that you're having, especially if it's unhelpful, when you reframe it in a way that seems more appealing or more positive, and it just takes away that feeling of anxiousness and nervousness and worry that you perhaps would have had if you held on to your unhelpful thought. So let's have a chat briefly about the thought process that we go through. So as you know, we have a thought, the brain has a thought, or the mind has a thought. That thought then has a reaction in the body, and you have a feeling or an emotion that comes from that thought. That feeling then creates an action or a behaviour, and the cycle goes on. Now imagine you have a fantastic thought. You wake up and you think, I look really good today. How does that make you feel when you say that? If you looked in the mirror and your thought was, I look really good today. You feel your whole body just lifting, your demeanour is picked up, you have feelings of excitement and happiness in your body. So that then creates a behaviour where you want to do things, you want to go out, you want to put on your best clothes, you want to speak to people, you want to get out and do things because you feel good about yourself. Now that's fantastic, absolutely fantastic, and that's what we would want as often as possible. But we know that we can't always control our thoughts. We can't control what's coming into our head, but what we can do is control what we do with those thoughts. So let's imagine that you have a thought that's an unhelpful thought. Let's use an example of perhaps something in a work scenario where you have been asked to participate and get involved in a big project. And your first thought is, oh, absolutely no way, I will never be able to do something as big as that. So, does that sound familiar to you? Have you perhaps in some time in your life experienced something like that, where you've been asked to get involved in something or do something, and your first automatic thought is to think, oh, it seems too big, there's no way I could do that, or I'm not experienced enough or good enough, or whatever it is. When you have a thought like that, and if you're aware of it right now, you'll probably know what I'm talking about, because right now you'll have a specific feeling in your body. You will be feeling something about that thought. So if it's an unhelpful thought, we can feel low or sad or upset or angry or anxious, uptight, worried, stressed, and then that creates the behaviour. The behaviour can actually be complete inaction. So if we put it into the example of the work scenario, if you had the thought that it was too big a job and there was no way you were good enough to do it, it made you feel quite low and worried or anxious about it, then the behaviour is probably going to be inaction. So because of the thought you've had, you're then not going to step forward. Does this sound familiar to something that you've experienced, where you've held yourself back, all based on a thought, not necessarily a fact, because a thought is just a thought, not a fact, and then you stopped yourself doing something that you really want to do? Well, what I want to talk about today is how we can reframe that thinking, really taking the time out to take control of our thoughts and really reframe them in a way that is more helpful for your daily experiences and how you live your life. You can live in a much more fulfilled and happy life if you have great thoughts, or you at least know how to reframe some of the unhelpful thoughts in such a way that they seem more manageable, because it changes how you feel, which will create different actions, and it will move away from a lot of inaction, which often is what happens when we have unhelpful thoughts. So the tip that I want to give you today is I want you to get a piece of paper. Now you can do it right now if you like and pause this video, or you can wait to the end. But I want you to get a piece of paper and have 2 columns on it. And on the left hand side, I want you to write down all the unhelpful thoughts that have been coming up for you recently. Anything that's been coming up that you think has been particularly challenging or holding you back. So let's say we have an example like the one we spoke about in the work situation. So for example, you have been asked to be involved in a project or a bigger task or something else that you're just not used to. The first thought is, I'll never be able to do it, I'm not good enough, it's just way out of my league. How about reframing that in such a way, for example, you could say, this is a big challenge, but it really excites me and it stretches my knowledge. Have a think about that and how differently you would feel if someone presented you with an opportunity and instead of thinking, I'll never be able to do that, it's way out of my league, I'm not good enough, you think to yourself, you know what, that is a big challenge, but it actually excites me and it really stretches my knowledge. A completely different body, emotion and feeling will be connected with that, and that creates a different action. And the action and behaviour that will come off a more helpful thought is that you will be able to move forward with what it is you want to do. And you won't be caught in the negative cycle, which is quite often what happens. And you see, the brain, the subconscious mind particularly, has so many stories of the past where you've maybe experienced times where you've not felt good enough or experienced enough, or something's just not gone to plan that you might have expected. So the subconscious will race around and find all the times that you haven't felt good enough and remind you of that, so that when you are positioned with an opportunity, you go back to that same place that you've been before, and that stops you taking action forward. Equally, you will search for every possibility to fit the story that you want. You will create a story that fits the dialogue that I am not good enough or I'm not experienced enough to go along with that to justify not taking action. So just think about that right now. Think about a time where you stopped yourself doing something because of an unhelpful thought, and how many times you've then searched for stories to evidence how you feel, stories to evidence that thought. You'll go back and remember there was that one time that this didn't work out, or there was a time where I made a mistake on such and such a project. But what you want to do, which is much more helpful, is reframe the thinking, which will reframe the stories that you look for. So if you see something as a big opportunity, and you can see that as an opportunity to take a risk and also grow, really stretch your knowledge, you see it from a place of challenge, you see it from a place of learning. And as I always tell people, there's no such a thing as failure. Everything is a learning. So every opportunity that you step forward for and you take that calculated risk that, you know, you've got what it takes to do what needs to be done, then there's no such a thing as failure, because everything is a learning opportunity. Now remember, if you feel really anxious about something, you're stressed at the thought of it, this is the way that the brain and the body tells you to protect yourself from danger. This is an automatic response, but you need to ask yourself this question: am I really in true danger? Am I going to be in true danger? Am I being asked to do something that is so far beyond my capabilities that in actual fact it would be too much of a risk? Or am I just hearing old stories about my beliefs about myself? And in actual fact, if I see it as a challenge, it actually excites me and creates opportunity for growth and learning. I want you to have a think about that and take your list, put all of those thoughts that you have, those unhelpful thoughts, on one side, and then reframe them on the other side. Give yourself opportunities to see it in a different way and really reframe the situation as a whole, when you do this, you'll start to see your life through a completely different lens, and you will start to create more opportunities and more things will come your way because you're more open and you're more keen to do different things and try different things. Remember, our thoughts are only thoughts, they're not facts. And in actual fact, I'm quite sure if you were to ask yourself the question, if you heard your voice saying, I'm not good enough for that, I'm not smart enough, or whatever it is that you hear, if you really asked yourself, is that true? Then I'm quite sure you would do a bit of digging and really ask yourself, is that true? Because there's probably way more evidence to support that in actual fact, you're more than capable. You have everything that you need, and you probably need just a little bit of extra support to take you to the next stage. You need people around you to help you with the task, and that's absolutely fine. But that doesn't mean that you're incapable. So look at your thoughts that are holding you back, that are causing you anxiety, that are stressing you. Reframe them in a way that feels more aligned to what you really want for your life and how you want your life to be, full of opportunities and possibilities, and give that a go. And if you want to know more about how you can work with me or about the different methods that I use within my practice, then all my details are in the description box. Feel free to reach out. Remember to keep in touch with me and to hear more from me on my videos. Subscribe to my channel right now. If you click the notification bell too, that means you will be notified of everything else that comes out, and you'll get to be notified so you won't miss anything in any of the series that I am putting forward. So thank you so much for joining today, for joining this second video in the series of Heal, Grow, Thrive. Have a wonderful day.